Welcome to our webinar on WEEE management in Belgian organizations. So this webinar is organized in the framework of the European project BuzzySource. My name is Sophie Svez and I am with my colleague Camila Mascar from Ghent University. I will first start with the structure of our webinar. So we will start by presenting the challenges of WEEE management, then present you some elements of the legislation on WEEEs and the Belgian context, and end up this presentation with some solutions to better manage WEEEs in organizations. Finally, there will be questions and answers, if any. But first, I want to introduce the context in which we organized this webinar. It's in the context of the BuzzySource project. It's a European project funded by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, EIT, focusing on raw materials. So in short, EIT raw materials. BuzzySource stands for Electronic Equipment, a source of metals for businesses, and it aims to contribute to a more resource resilient EU by sensitizing businesses and public organizations to a better management of WEEEs. The first step of the project was to provide an overview of different WEEE collection, reuse, and recycling methods and tools in the 5 countries of the partners of the consortium, which are research institutes and universities from Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Hungary, and Slovenia. And this resulted in a report available on the website of the project. And the second step of the project is to organize workshops and webinars to communicate on the better management of WEEE in organizations. So I will start by presenting you some challenges related to WEEE management. So as you may know, WEEE stands for Waste Electric and Electronic Equipment. Some key figures here is that 9.8 million tons of waste from electric and electronic equipment were generated in 2015 in the EU. And in fact, in Europe, it's one of the waste flow with the fastest increase, so 3 to 5% increase per year. Because of these large figures, this waste flow needs to be properly handled. The proper management of WEEE is also related to their composition, as in fact more than 57 elements can be found in WEEEs. Some of them, like lead, arsenic, or mercury, are hazardous and can present a risk of leaching if they end up in landfill or in ashes from incineration used, for example, for road filling. This leaching can provoke some pollution of groundwater and soil, which needs to be prevented. But this various composition also results in the presence of valuable resources such as cobalt, gold, and palladium. And they are valuable because of their importance in the economy, and for some of them, their risk of supply disruption. One challenge related to supply risk is the amount of reserves remaining on Earth to be extracted. So a study conducted by Plan C in Belgium resulted in the following figure, which shows several resources and their related number of years remaining for them to be extracted from the Earth crust. And several of these resources represented, here highlighted in red, are actually present in WEEEs. And you can see that apart from rare earth elements, many of them are expected to be exhausted within the next several decades. These numbers are debated, but in fact it shows that the resources we use are finite, and so they should be well managed to ensure a continuous supply for our activities. Another major challenge related to supply risk is the location of these reserves. The same study represented where these reserves are located around the globe, and you can see that very few of these reserves are actually present in Europe. So Europe is mainly depending on imports to supply its activity in these resources. To face this challenge, Europe is working on increasing its self-sufficiency in several key raw materials, and by this working on the recovery of these materials from products already present on the territory. This includes WEEEs, which contain many valuable materials for Europe, and which have the characteristic to create very dense urban deposits, also called urban mines, which are more dense than natural mines. So to give you an example, 1 ton of cell phones contains approximately 300 grams of gold, while in natural mines, 1 ton of ore contains around 5 grams of gold. To valorize this potential, Europe is investing in research, innovation, and education through, for example, funding programs such as Horizon 2020, in the framework of which EIT Raw Materials was created. One key tool that Europe is using to improve the management of WEEEs in the territory is legislation. So I will now present you some elements of the European legislation and present you the Belgian context related to WEEE management. Europe defined the WEEE directive, which was updated in 2012, which needs to be implemented in all the member states of the European Union and is implemented in the legislation of the 3 Belgian regions. So in Flanders, in the VLAREMA Article 3.4.4, in Brussels, in the decree of the government of the Brussels region, concerning the management of waste products, and in Wallonia, in the decree of Walloon government implementing a take-back obligation for certain waste products. In fact, this directive is based on one main principle, which is that the producer or importer is responsible for the collection, treatment, and recovery of their products. This principle is also called the producer's responsibility principle. So in practice, it's applied by applying an acceptance duty from producers, which means that in fact there is an obligation from the sellers of EEEs to accept back WEEEs. So for all sellers, they have to accept the WEEEs from consumer who buy a new appliance in their shop. And for large retailers, so at least a surface of 400 square meters, they have the obligation to take back WEEEs even if the consumer decides not to buy a new appliance in this retail shop. The legislation also defines collection targets. So until 2017, there was a minimum collection target of 4 kilograms per inhabitant. And from 2016, this target was set to 45% of EEEs put on the market. And this target increases from 2019, so from next year, it will have to reach 65% of triple E's put on the market, or to reach 85% of triple E's generated. This directive also set recovery targets, for example, related to recycling rates. There are two ways that producer can comply with the acceptance duty of WEEE. So the first one is the collective scheme. Federation of producers can sign an environmental policy agreement, which results in the formation of a management body. This management body is also called Producer Responsibility Organization. And the policy agreement, in fact, consists of rules and measures for the collection of WEEE. These measures can be the qualitative and quantitative prevention and reuse of WEEE, the selective collection of WEEE, their optimal treatment, etc. And so the management body takes over the obligations of the individual producers. In Belgium, there are two producer responsibility organizations. There is Recupel, in charge of most of WEEEs produced in Belgium. And there is PV Cycle, the organization in charge of collecting solar panels. Another scheme is an individual scheme. So in this scheme, a producer decides not to join the producer responsibility organization scheme, but to comply themselves to the acceptance duty. So in this case, the producers have to compose themselves an individual waste prevention and waste management plan. In Belgium, there are few of these producers who decided to follow this scheme, and there are mostly large companies who want to have the whole control of the value chain of their products. So in Belgium, the collective scheme, so led by Recupel, collected 110,000 tons of WEEEs, which correspond to more than 22,000 containers. As you can see on the figure, most of these collected WEEEs are recycled into new materials, and the remaining fraction, around 8%, remains as waste. So there is a very high efficiency of materials recovery from the recycled fraction, from the collected fraction. This figure shows the evolution of the collection rate of products put on the market. And you can see that in 2016, 41% of the products put on the market were catched by the activities of Recupel. So it's a high collection rate, and it places Belgium among the countries with the highest collection rate. But you can see also that there is still a large fractions that is not taken care of by Recupel. These include legal and illegal export as scrap, and a fraction for which we don't really know what happens to it. Most probably, this fraction is made of WEEEs that are stored in houses and offices. A study showed that in Belgian households, there was around 77 appliances that were present. Some are still functional, but some are also broken or obsolete and are just stored at households. And in offices, Recupel estimates that around 10% of the triple E's, professional triple E's, are actually taken back by Recupel. So there is a large potential of improvement regarding the collection of professional triple E's. Based on this situation, we will now present you some solutions that can be followed to better manage WEEEs in organizations.
We will focus mainly on organizations, as this is the main concern of the Busy Source project. And when we analyzed the situation on the market, we figured that the most efficient way to reduce the amount of waste at organizations and companies would be the change of the consumption habits. In order to do that, we could switch to alternative way of doing things, alternative business models, and those could be, for example, buying a service rather than equipment, leasing or renting, or buying second-hand equipment. On the right side of the slide, you see an example of selling the light as a service instead by a Belgian company called ETAP, instead of actually selling light bulbs itself. It makes us users rethink the way we do things and rethink our habits, but it also makes the companies changing their business models, because they will not focus anymore on producing the largest amount of light bulbs possible, but producing the least amount of light bulb possible, but with the longer lasting lifetime. So at the end of the day, there will be much less products that will end up as waste or in storage or would be obsolete. Second-hand equipment will avoid that the equipment which is still possible to use become a waste. So it will actually also again increase its lifetime before it becomes waste. However, even when we take this action, at the end of the day, we might still end up with certain amount of WEEE. How can we deal with that in our organization in a more structured way? We could follow the plan, do, check, act approach. According to this approach, we follow 4 steps after each other, and we iterate them all the time to improve our situation. The first step is plan. So where at this stage, we assess the current situation. So we answer the questions like what, how much, and which management. So we are checking what are the WEEEs in our company, how they are being currently collected or how they are being treated. Also, we check what is the procedure now on WEEE collection and communication in the company. And accordingly, we plan the new procedure on the collection and communication. It usually has a bigger impact when we don't focus only on WEEE, but we also include other residual materials like plastic, wood, etc. The next step would be the do step. That means that we actually implement the actions that we had in our plan. So we place collection bins, containers for WEEE and so on. We organize collection days in the company. We choose a storage area where this collection can take place, and we communicate that to the personnel so that they get involved. This is very important also to increase their interest, to maybe allocate some hours in the company just for this activity, to be sure that the employees take part. The step after that would be actually checking if the actions that we planned and implemented, what kind of impact they had. So we check the amount of WEEE collected. in the organization. We can check that based on the collector's report, which will inform us about the weight, amounts, and quality of the collected equipment, if it was working, defected, or was it a scrap, and it will also include the ID numbers of the equipment where possible. Based on that data, we can perform the gap analysis, which is directly linked to the last step of this cycle, acting, when we learn from the previous steps and from the gap analysis, and we set up a new baseline. So all of that in order to adjust and improve continuously our plan and the waste WEEE management in our organization. The whole point of this approach is that it iterates, it continues approach, so that we always improve our baseline. When we are organizing those collection days at the company, we might use some support of Recupel in Belgium, as it's a key actor of WEEE collection. The WEEE can be separated in the household ones and the professional ones. Household ones are not only those that we have at home. Those are also there's also a big range of equipment present at the companies that are below a certain weight and below certain size. So, for example, the laptop is even though it's a company laptop, it belongs to the household WEEE, and a printer, depending on her size, it will belong to household or professional appliance. If the printer weighs less than 35 kilograms, it will belong to household category, and if it's more than that, it will belong to the professional category. Then another item commonly used in the companies, which is a vending machine or a coffee machine, also depending on its size and weight, will belong to the household or professional appliances. Based on that category, a different kind of contribution is being requested. The all-in contribution is requested for the household appliances, and it covers collection, sorting, transport, and processing of WEEE. Also, part of this contribution goes to Recupel for reporting and communication. The administrative contribution, it's requested when producer brings the product on the market, and it covers only administrative and reporting costs, but no collection, sorting, etc. Recupel works with a broad network of the Recupel certified recyclers, which can also help you in the tasks of collection and recycling of the WEEE at your company. In order to find them, we invite you to check the Recupel website, as they are listed there, also shown on a map, and you can find them also by the postcode of a commune. According to the Waste Framework Directive, where we all know to follow the scheme of reduce, reuse, and recycle, there has been an adapted scheme, which especially for the electronic appliances, which also includes other steps like refurbishing and remanufacture. These steps are listed here accordingly to the amount of effort that needs to be put in order to put the product back on the market. So, for example, in reuse, that needs the least effort. This means that someone else can use the equipment or parts that you don't need anymore. And, for example, in that framework, you can donate your computers. The refurbishing demands a little bit more effort. It's still an easy fix, and then the product can be put on the market of a new equipment, and it's mostly applicable for example, printers and tablets. Remanufacture, that requires already much more effort, because We produce new products based on the parts of old equipment. A good example here is remanufacturing of engines. Lastly, last step in circular economy, if other options are not possible, so reuse, refurbish, or manufacture, if those options are exploited, then we move to the last step, and this is recycling. When in recycling, the first part is disassembly. Afterwards, the components are separated, and then they can be recovered to sell or reuse. It is important to always keep in mind the data safety and include the data wiping all along these chains to assure that we are in line in the latest legislation of GDPR. Following this scheme, on the website of Recupel, you can find instructions on what can you best do with your electric or electronic appliance. The link is visible here on the slide, so we invite you kindly to check this. It is based on a simple yes and no answer system. So for example, for starters, you have to answer a question if your device is still working. If yes, it's clear you can donate it or you can put it in the reuse center. Either way, it will be free of charge. If the device is not working, then another question arises. You need to check if it's a domestic or professional appliance. If it's a domestic appliance, you can seek help with professional recycler or Recupel for the further steps. If it's a professional appliance, most of the time you directly should contact Recupel to advise you on the next steps. And to ask offer of the recyclers. So Recupel will link you, or the Recupel website will link you with the recyclers, and based on that you can proceed. And the recycler will pick up your waste at your location once the offer is accepted, and so on. What Recupel also does is organizing collection days several times or once, depending on season. And then it's called Recupel on Tour. Then at all the collection points of Recupel, you can bring and leave your electric or electronic obsolete or waste equipment. The next slide will focus more on those alternative solutions like donation and reuse and second-hand shops and access to this sector if you are considering this as an option for your company. So what are the channels for the refurbishing or reuse? For example, you can donate to charity, you can donate to reuse centers, you can also put it back on the market for second-hand equipment, or you can put it in an internal marketplace, which is usually done in large organizations like hospitals, universities, or big governmental buildings, where you have different departments or different faculties, which usually are not even on the same geographical site. And then based on this internal marketplace, they can see what kind of equipment is available in other departments, and they can just exchange it between each other, or for free or for a very small symbolic fee. And a good example of donation and reuse is two sister companies originating from Belgium, which is Close the Gap and Wordloop. You can donate your equipment so they gather donations from the European companies and they are using them in other continents, other countries, in Africa mainly, in Latin America and in Asia, in order to support local educational and entrepreneurship projects. Close the Gap was founded in 2003 and WordLoop was founded by Close the Gap in 2009 in order to assure the responsible management of the electric and electronic appliances put on the market in the other countries. So Close the Gap collected so far over 700,000 IT assets from the companies. Over 150,000 computers were deployed in developing countries, and almost 2 million unique IT users are reached weekly. If you would like, the activities of WordLoop can be presented in the numbers of tons of hazardous waste spared from landfills, which is more than 300 tons, and also more than 2,000 tons of e-waste collected and processed. The Close the Gap ensures the free of charge collection on site worldwide. They are working with support of Arrow, and it's for all the ICT assets. So not only for computers, but all the tablets, smartphones, screens, the printers, servers, and so on. They ensure free of charge data wiping for all the collected IC assets, and for that they provide a blanco attestation. And for everything that has been donated and treated by Close the Gap and WordLoop, there is a detailed reporting service at asset level. They also are very close. They follow up very closely the booming startup environment in Africa by supporting their entrepreneurship projects. Another case study originating from Belgium is a federation called Resources. It's a federation providing services for social economy enterprises active in reuse, and it's active mainly in Brussels and Wallonia. The WEEE reuse rate is 5.9% out of all the WEEE collected. 23 enterprises are members of Resources, out of which 6 are repair shops with the warranty label called ElectroRef. ElectroRef is a label that ensures that the quality of the second-hand appliances. It's a label that you can see in the middle of the screen, the blue label. There is also another label for the second-hand shops and repair shops, and it's called Recup label. This one ensures that the activities respect criteria such as quality of second-hand products, transparency of the prices, and possibility of after-sale service, and so on. More information about this federation and their members can be found on the website that you can see on the bottom of the screen. So we invite you warmly to check it out. One before last initiative that I wanted to present is leclicrecup.be. It also originates from Resources. It's a website for donation and resale of second-hand goods. It provides personal advice possible based on companies' needs, and it collaborates also with public organization authorities, with schools, with creche, with rest homes, with kindergartens to meet their needs and to meet the needs of the communities. The last, a little bit different kind of service is provided by the EIT raw material startup Circularize. This startup provides help in tracking and tracing of the electric and electronic equipment. It makes a link between the manufacturer, users, and the recycler. For example, in the sense of the WEEE, it can provide the data on the equipment itself, how to repair it, what is the age, and what is the material content. and it stores it safely in a database because it's using the blockchain technology. Thanks to this overview provided to recyclers, they can, for example, reduce their cost of and time related to making a decision on how to treat the particular electric and electronic obsolete or waste equipment. In order to conclude, I think we can all agree that there are really many actions that we can take. They might be sometimes very little, they don't require a lot of effort from us, but they can have large impacts on the safe and responsible management of WEEE. Organizations additionally can benefit from that better management because they can save money and they can score extra points in the report in corporate social responsibility, CSR. That's all we wanted to share with you. And now we are open for all your questions, and we hope that we could answer them. We hope that you could benefit from this webinar. Thank you very much for your attention. You can always contact us in case of any comments or questions.